Hi, this is Rick with Habitat for Humanity, Halton, Mississauga. Today we're going to talk about the operation of the Milwaukee sliding compound miter saw, and we're going to go through a few safety tips and parts of the saw and make sure you're operating it correctly. The goal is to cut accurately but cut safely. We want to make sure nobody gets hurt and that everyone has a good day on the job site. We want to talk about safety. We have to start with personal protective equipment, PPE. We all know on the Habitat sites we have to have hard hat, safety boots, safety vest, goggles. Very important. You've got to protect your eyes when you're working with this saw. Now let's talk about the parts of the saw. The saw comes in two components. There's the stand component and the saw assembly. The stand is portable, has wheels on it. You can drag it to where you want to work. Make sure you set it up in a well-lit, flat work area that doesn't have any standing water around. It has retractable landing gear. Pull these little red pins on the underside of the carriage, swing the legs out, flip it up, stand it in a horizontal position. On either side of the stand there are adjustable rollers. Adjust those to the correct length of lumber that you're going to be cutting, and also make them flush to the work table and work surface. Once the stand is set up, we have to talk about the saw assembly. The saw assembly is quite heavy. It weighs 65 pounds. Make sure you have a helper when you go to lift this up onto the stand. There are two clips on the front edge of the saw assembly that need to engage in the leading edge of the stand. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to clip the back end of the saw assembly onto the back rail of the stand, roll it into position, and then lock it down by engaging the two locks. Check to make sure it's stable. Once it's stable, you can disengage the locks. The arm assembly has a trigger, a light switch on it, and it's usually locked down when you put the saw. So you need to unlock it. Pull the black knob on the left side of the arm by slightly putting some pressure on the arm. It'll pop right up. You also need to disengage the sliding lock, which is a little knurled knob on the back right of the fence. It looks like a hurricane symbol. Twist that loose. Now your saw will slide back and forth so you can cut a full depth of lumber. The miter is also locked down. You'll notice that big black knob on the front edge of the arm. Turn it counterclockwise again. Pull the trigger up underneath. Rotate it over into position. You'll notice the miter gauge right in front of the saw. Check that little arrow. Release the trigger as you come to 0, and you'll hear it click into place. That's a détente setting. It also has other détente settings of 45, 22, depending on what you're cutting, but the most common angle you're going to cut is 0. So hear that click in. Once it's in position, just tighten that knob down. The work table is where the lumber sits. And on the back of the work table is the most important part of the saw, which is the fence. The fence is the vertical piece of metal that your lumber is going to rest against. The arm assembly has the trigger on it. It has a light switch. As you pull the arm down, the guard will pull up on its own. On the back of the arm is the dust collecting bag. When you're working indoors, make sure that dust collecting bag is empty to start with, and that it's hooked on properly so you're not blowing sawdust all over the workspace. So let's talk about some specific safety concerns while operating the saw. We've already talked about your PPE. You're wearing your hard hat, your safety boots, your vest, hearing protection, and most important of all, safety goggles. While you're operating the saw, it's very important that you do not have any gloves on. We want firm contact with the wood. We want no untethered hair, no loose jewelry, and no loose clothing. Stand back from the saw, make sure you have clearance from the saw arm as it comes down, and just reach forward and lean in with your body pressure to hold that piece of lumber on the fence. Very critical to talk about hand position. Hand position of the saw is very, very important. This is what you're trying to protect. You don't want to be damaging your hands. The right hand stays on the trigger arm at all times, right through the cut. The left hand, which is the hand that is potentially in danger, stays on that piece of lumber, positive pressure with the fence. You want your fingers parallel with the direction of the blade. You want to turn your thumb down and under the workpiece if possible and lock your thumb and the wood up against the fence. Do not have your hand extended outside the fence. Keep it in line with that little black rectangle that you see on the fence. If you have it too far to the side, you could cantilever the piece of wood off the fence. which potentially could cause danger. So now we've talked about some general and specific safety concerns about the saw and respecting its power and operating it in a smooth, controlled, calm manner. Let's talk about some specific operational tips and tricks that we can do to make our work easy and cut accurately. So first thing we want to do is make a mark on your piece of wood. You're going to have a specific measurement in mind. You're going to put your piece of lumber up on the table roughly. Pull your tape, use your speed square, slide the speed square along under the tape, pull out your pencil, make your mark. Put all that stuff away. Pencil in your pocket, speed square off to the side, retract your tape, get it out of harm's way. Slide the piece of wood up against the fence and roughly align that mark that you've made with the slot in the table. You're going to make some fine adjustments once you have that in position. So you're up against the fence, take the arm, put the blade up on top of the wood and align it and see where that blade is going to land on your pencil mark. You have to decide which side of that blade you're going to cut on. The saw has a finite thickness of about 1/8 of an inch. That space that it plows through the wood is called a kerf, K-E-R-F. A hacksaw blade, for example, has a very tiny kerf space of about 1/16 of an inch or 1/32. This saw has about 1/8 of an inch. If you cut to the left or right of your pencil mark, you're going to affect the cut of your measurement by about 1/4 of an inch. So always line up the left surface of the blade with your pencil mark so that the blade is actually plowing into the offcut area. After you've made your measurement, always make a habit of putting an X on that offcut. If you have a similar piece of wood, sometimes it's very difficult to find once you have the two pieces in your hand which one you want. So always make a habit of putting an X on the offcut piece. Once you have started up the blade and you've plunged down and through, stopping the blade in the wood is recommended. So once you're down and through, just release the trigger, wait for everything to stop, wait for the motor to wind down completely, let the blade actually physically stop, then start moving your hands. You can then take your right hand off, push the offcut away, take the piece of lumber away, then lift the arm up and out, and you're good to go. Never cross your hands while you're operating the saw. If the saw blade's running and you're crossing hands, you've lost visibility with your workspace, not a good idea. Do not let bystanders come and help you remove the offcuts. Let the offcut just sit there and wait for the saw to come to a complete stop before you start moving pieces around. If you are doing repetitive cuts, that's sometimes the most dangerous part of using a saw like this. We tend to try to rush ahead and get the next piece cut and the next piece cut, and before you know it, you're rushing that next piece in. Take your time, work slowly, work carefully. If you're cutting blocking, that's a 14.5 inches, and you're cutting 30 of them, you're going to be careful on the first, second, and third. In 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, you might start to rush and reach in. So just catch yourself, work slowly and methodically, and wait for the blade to stop. All right, so now it's cleanup time, let's say, on the job site, and it's time to break this saw setup down. You're going to basically reverse what you've done at the beginning of the day. It's a two-person job. This saw is heavy. It weighs 65 pounds. We want to make sure that nobody gets hurt, hurting their back, lifting it, and also we want to protect the saw from damage and accidentally falling. So the first thing you're going to do is unplug the saw. Make the saw safe. Have one person perhaps coiling the power coil up for you. Wrap the power cable around the saw assembly. Bring the arm down. Use the lock pin to engage the arm in its locked down position. Take the slide lock, slide the motor assembly back. Turn that little knob clockwise so you can lock that slide assembly. Take the miter gauge, undo the big black knurled knob, pull the trigger, slide the miter gauge to the right at 45 degrees, release the trigger, tighten the lock. That ensures that nothing can move, and it takes up a smaller footprint in this folded up position. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to have your buddy help you. You're going to unclip the two front lock levers on that are holding the saw assembly to the stand. It's a two-person job, remember. Lift the saw up carefully and take it to the wheelbarrow and make sure that the miter adjustment does not engage the sidewall of the wheelbarrow. We've had a number of saws get damaged and bent actually by putting too much weight on this assembly. You can always just have you and your friend carry the saw back to the storage area too. You don't have to use the wheelbarrow. Disengage the dust collector, take the dust, dump it out, put the dust collector back on the back of the saw. Now we have to take the stand apart. Simply slide in the rollers on the side, snug up the locks on them, flip the stand up, pull the red pins, retract the landing gear, and now the saw can either roll to its storage area, or again, you can have a buddy help you carry it there. And now you're all cleaned up for the day, except for all the wood that you've left on the ground. So take those off-cut pieces, take them to the storage pile, and sort them, if possible, into some scrap lumber piles, and all the debris. Hopefully you've been putting them into a garbage can as you've gone, but if not, just pick up that debris, take it to the dumpster for removal. So let's summarize what we've talked about here today. We want everybody cutting effectively but safely. And that starts with your personal protective equipment. Make sure you're wearing your hard hat, safety boots, safety vest, hearing protection. Do not use gloves while you're operating with the saw. The most important part of this is your safety goggles. Make sure you're wearing your safety goggles at all times, and that any bystander observing what's happening on the saw is wearing safety goggles. So we don't want anybody hit with flying debris and injure something that's irreplaceable. Cut smoothly and carefully. Respect the power of the saw. Use positive pressure. Control that wood on the fence. Do not be erratic and violent with the movements of the arm. Let the saw do the work. It's a powerful saw. It's a 3.3 horsepower motor. It's spinning at 3,200 RPMs. Let it passively go through that wood, just like you're cutting butter. If there's something you don't understand about the operation of the saw, consult a nearby crew leader or a site supervisor. They should be able to provide you with the answers that you need. If you see anybody operating the saw in a dangerous manner that you don't like, feel free to interrupt them. Point out what they're doing or not doing, and so that everybody has a happy day. All the information that we've talked about is contained in depth in the Milwaukee online tool manual, which we're providing a link for. Please take the 10 minutes it's going to take to read the manual through carefully. And if there's anything there you don't understand, again, ask. So thanks for watching this video, and we hope you have a safe and productive day.